Hello everybody, this is Lawrence from the Atheist Community in Milwaukee, and today I have a very special guest.
Hi, I'm Ruben.
And he is also from the Atheist Community in Milwaukee.
Yep.
And he is a dear friend of mine.
Oh, very dear.
Yeah, very dear. Alright, so I want to start off by saying that this website, it's called proofthatgodexists.org. Oh my god, I thought that I was out of it, but I'm not. There's still more questions. Hold on.
Oh, God.
Alright, so yeah. This
Did you notice that the right question is always on the left side?
You said
Or the right answer?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it takes you into the website after the quiz?
Yeah. No, I know. Actually, after the quiz, it takes you to the Disney website.
Disney website?
Yes. When you actually click exit, it takes you to the Disney website. Anyways, so this website is called proofthatgodexists.org, and it's not really proof of anything at all. It's more of a word game trick. It's more of a parlor trick. But a lot of people have problems with this. So I just want to clear it up. So I'm on the front page right now. All right. It says proof that God exists, truth. All right.
Absolute truth exists? Absolute truth does not exist? I don't know if absolute truth exists, or I don't care if absolute truth exists.
All right. So first, I'm going to go with I don't know if absolute truth exists. And then it asks you absolutely true or absolutely false. Or sorry, not even absolutely false. It just says absolutely true or false to the claim I don't know if absolute truth exists. All right, so this was my first problem with this website. It uses two different definitions of absolute. All right, so one of the definitions, if absolute truth exists, that's definition 2, viewed or existing independently and not in relation to other things, not relative or comparative. And then they go on to use the definition not qualified or diminished in any way, total, utter, complete, outright. That's the other definition. One of these definitions exists independently from the mind, and the other one does not. It exists with the mind.
Well, that's absolutely correct.
And that is the one that is with the mind. That is definition number 1. Thank you for demonstrating that, Ruben.
Oh, well, I don't know if that answer was absolute enough.
All right. So anyways, so after this, if you say absolutely true, it goes you back to the front page and tells you this isn't a glitch, think about it. I also think that another problem with this website is that every single page is a false dichotomy. It gives you only 2 options, assuming that there are only 2 options.
If you click false, it also brings you that same page.
Yeah, exactly. The only option you can choose is absolute truth exists. Alright, so let's choose that. Absolute truth exists. And then it says the proof that God exists, knowledge. And then you have 2 options again. I know something to be true. I don't know anything to be true. Alright, so my first thought was I don't know anything to be true. But then I was thinking about it, but I do know that I don't know anything to be true. But then that just goes around again. So the way that I would solve this, I would say that I don't know anything to be true, and I don't even know that I don't know anything to be true. Maybe I do know things to be true, and I just wouldn't know it. If we're talking about the kind of knowledge that what's his name? Descartes, right?
Yeah,
That
Rene
kind.
Descartes with his strategy of doubt, who at first brought it down to that there must be a thinking thing, and I am that thing, therefore I exist. And then went on to claim that God exists through some really, really far off argument, if you can call it that.
I haven't actually heard his argument for the existence of God.
It's in Principles of Philosophy. I can forward you a PDF later.
All right, sounds good. All right, so back to the problem. Let's go. Let's just go with the layman answer. I know something to be true, and it keeps you going. You're fine there. Uh, then it says proof that God exists. Logic.
You have acknowledged that absolute truth exists, and that you know some things to be true. The next step towards the proof of God, that God exists, is it's just babbling. Just the entire website. It's not logic. It's like someone took like philosophy 102 and they were like, yeah, I'm a master of logic now.
Yeah, exactly.
So the law of logic is the law of non-contradiction. The law states, for instance, that it cannot be both true that my car is in the parking lot and that it is not in the parking lot at the same time and in the same way.
When in reality, if we ask a quantum physicist, he would actually say that it does exist there and not there at the same time. Because quantum physics is fucking insane. And I mean insane as in so fucking awesome, I can't even begin to describe it. Alright, so anyways, to this logic, it gives you these like another false dichotomy. Logic exists, and logic does not exist. Okay, so logic, what we use logic, the way we use it, I actually looked up the definition, because in order to be precise, I have to know the definition, I have to know what we're talking about. Which I doubt this philosophy 102 major. I don't think you did that. So it says.
Are there multiple definitions for logic? Or is there only one?
There's only one.
Oh, then it can't play games.
Logic is the use and study of valid reasoning. There are different types of logic. But yep. Logic, in general, is the use and study of valid reasoning. Alright, so logic is our reasoning. It's the use of it. So it only exists in the mind. And the laws of logic, by the way, I just want to bring this up early. The laws of logic exist outside of our mind, but it's an explanation, or sorry, not an explanation, a description of the way we see the world. We could potentially, in the future, have different laws of logic after we have discovered things.
Yeah, I mean, Aristotle essentially tried to explain everything as syllogisms, which, I mean, if you went in with that mindset into a university today, you'd be laughed out.
Yeah, that's totally true. And then he'd be like, but I'm Aristotle. Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Alright, so logic exists in the mind, but sure, we can go with logic exists. Then it asks you about the nature of logic. To reach this page, you have acknowledged that there's absolute truth. No, I didn't acknowledge that. There was no other option. That you know some things to be true. I don't know that. And that logic exists. Next, we will examine what you believe about logic. Does logic change? Me and Ruben were having a little discussion about this earlier, before the recording. I think logic changes, or the way we use it changes. But how did you put it, Ruben?
For an argument to be logically significant, it must first be valid in that it has proper logical form,
Right.
and it must second be sound in that the things represented in the logical form make sense when formed into an argument. So people might always have the same level of validity. Validity might not change, but an actual sound reasoning might change.
Yeah, so I don't know where we're landing on this.
I'm going to say that logic changes, but if you believe that logic can change, then for all you know, logic has changed and contradictions are now valid.
That's not how that works.
You should have no problem with contradictions like the one below. Logic does not change, or logic does not change, which is not a contradiction.
It's
It
the
gives
same
the
thing.
same thing.
It's not a contradiction. You just gave me two of the same option. It's like
I guess it's a contradiction if you take into account first that I said logic can change, but that's not present here.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of reminds me of the Family Guy episode where Brian writes that book, Wish It, Want It, Do It. It's like, well, aren't wishing it, wishing it and wanting it the same thing? It's like your book basically makes 3 points and 2 of them are the same point. All right.
Yep.
So the only option, obviously, is logic doesn't change. All right. So, next one. Nature of logic, B. To reach this page, you have acknowledged that absolute truth exists, yada, 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 all that other shit. The next question is whether you believe that logic is material or is immaterial. In other words, is logic made of matter or is it abstract? All right, well, since logic is our use of our reasoning, and logic itself wouldn't exist without the mind, I would say it's abstract, but even abstract things are kind of in a way made of matter. Like jealousy. Like, Ruben, what's the color of jealousy?
P, obviously.
Yes. Yes. I forgot I sent you that link. Right, yeah, it is pea colored. It is chartreuse, it is golden, yellow, whatever. Somewhere in there. That's the color of jealousy. Or like the emotion jealousy is abstract, but the thing that causes it isn't.
And the thing that causes it is P.
Sure. All right. Obviously. All right. I'm gonna go with logic itself isn't made of matter.
I mean, it depends on how you see things. Like, if I were Plato, I would say, well, the form of logic is what logic is, and the form of logic has to appear in the world of the forms, which exists, and things that exist are made of matter, therefore logic is made of matter. And that's probably bullshit, but if I go with logic is made of matter, it asks me the nature of matter. Either matter changes or matter does not change, and we know that matter changes.
We do know that matter changes all the time. Actually, no, not all the time, but there was in the first trillionths of a second after the Big Bang, there was this I guess the best way I could put it is a diaspora. There was this separation of all the natural laws. And yes, there was matter at the start. And it changed how it works. It changed its forms. then there are lots of forms of matter. Or actually, hold up. Let's look up the definition of matter, the most basic definition of matter.
It takes you to another contradiction page saying that logic doesn't change and logic is made of matter which changes, which is a contradiction, which is not a contradiction. I mean, I can say that matter changes, but I could also say that matter, specific to the matter making up logic, does not change.
Yes, exactly. Like, if they were the same thing always, then that would be true. But they're not.
Yeah, and if you say matter doesn't change, it's like, seriously? If you believe that matter does not change, there's no point in continuing. You would have to believe that you're never going to die, and in that case, you need more help than the site can offer.
Hold up. Okay, so that's the answer there. So that's an even more basic definition of matter. I don't even need to look up the definition of matter. I wanna get down on my knees and start pleasing Jesus. I wanna feel His salvation all over my face. Alright. So, okay, next one. Nature of logic, C. To reach this page, etc. The next question is whether you believe that logic is universal or up to the individual. Are contradictions invalid only where you are, and only because you say they are, or is it universally true? Alright. Aside from being a false dichotomy. Alright. This person doesn't understand that logic exists in the mind. Like, we could talk about the laws of logic, in which case they're universal. But logic is person relative.
But if you believe that logic is relative, then you don't?
Then you don't, apparently.
It says that if you believe that logic is relative, then you don't. If logic does not apply universally, then it does not necessarily apply to this site, and you could have no problem with any contradictions like the one below. Logic is universal or logic is universal. Again,
all right.
Not a contradiction.
Let's go to logic is universal. Sure, why not? All right. And then the last page here is the proof. To reach this page, etc., truth, knowledge, and logic are necessary to prove anything and cannot be made sense of apart from God. All right. Few things wrong with that statement. All right. So, in order to prove anything.
Okay. In order to prove anything,
you need evidence.
You need truth.
Yes, you need just truth.
Yeah.
All right.
But knowledge, no. You can have unjustified true belief. And
exactly. And it would be the stupid belief because it's unjustified.
Yeah. Logic, not necessarily. I mean, demonstration isn't necessarily logic.
Exactly. Like, it is, like, the way we think about it, like, especially in science, we have to get rid of our common sense because so much stuff doesn't make much sense. You would think that a heavier object will fall faster, but then we know it doesn't. We would think that particles don't just pop in and out of existence at random all the time, but they do. They're called virtual particles. Like, we have to set aside common sense in science to allow room for knowledge. All right, so another thing with this. So you need truth to prove things.
Yeah.
And once,
unless, I mean, you can't prove something that's false.
Exactly. All right. So you need truth to prove things, and once you have proven it, then it actually becomes knowledge. Because knowledge is what you know.
Yeah.
Like, outside of knowledge, there's information. So information exists regardless.
And proof is necessary in order to get to knowledge. So, how can knowledge be necessary to prove something?
Exactly. All right. So then the last part, it says therefore, and then there's one button, the proof that God exists. All right. The proof that God exists is that without him, you couldn't prove anything. All right. Please tell me how you got there.
While this proof is valid, no one needs this proof. The Bible teaches us that there are two types of people in the world: those who profess the truth of God's existence and those who suppress the truth of God's existence. The options of seeking God or not believing in God are unavailable. The Bible never attempts to prove the existence of God, as it declares that the existence of God is so obvious that we are without excuse for not believing in him.
You know what else it declares?
What?
It declares that slavery is the right thing to do. It declares that cures to diseases can be either prayed away or some stupid ritual involving a bird and some blood.
Well, it does provide a link. Why God is necessary for knowledge. Unless one knows everything or has revelation from someone who does, something we don't know could contradict what we think we know.
Okay, so?
And that makes God necessary.
How?
Because the page said so.
How does that make God necessary? What?
Well, what about the truth one? Why God is necessary for truth. If our thoughts are the mere byproducts of the electrochemical processes in our evolved brains,
Hold on,
you would not...
hold on. Okay, so before you go on, I just want to make it clear. Is he saying that if there is a God, thoughts aren't those things? Because we know that they are. Go on.
Playing devil's advocate, I could say that thoughts aren't those things, but the action of a thought results in those things coming to be. And you can't disprove it.
Actually, I'm sure you can.
Probably.
We have, scanners.
Well, you can't disprove it right now.
You're right.
Alright, you would not get truth as you would get brain fizz. Chemicals do not produce truth, they just react. As Doug Wilson said, it would be like shaking up a can of Mountain Dew and a can of Dr. Pepper, opening them and watching them fizz. Neither fizz is true, they just are. For truth you need someone, God, who transcends the natural realm.
No, hold up. Okay, read the first part again. Before the
If our
fizz.
thoughts are the mere byproducts of the electrochemical processes in our evolved brains, you would not get truth as you would get brain fizz.
Aside from him not having a demonstration of this in any way, shape, or form, okay, brain fizz, that just still is annoyingly stupid.
Yeah?
Thoughts are the result of chemical reactions. And those chemical reactions are the results of other things, and so on and so on. We could get into a whole determinism debate, but I'm not going to. Okay. So, truth is kind of like, like the question, what makes water wet?
Water isn't wet. Things that touch water are wet. God.
No, it's an emergence. It's like it just comes out of it naturally, because that's what we've called it. Like, any kind of information that we find out, it doesn't become truth, it just is. It's an emergence of information. Like, it's a necessary property, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Alright. So that's why that's bullshit.
Universal, immaterial, unchanging logic. For universal, immaterial, unchanging logic, you need someone, God, who is universal, Psalm 92, not made of matter, John 4:24, and unchanging, Malachi 3:6. Without God, who has universal knowledge, we would not know anything to be universally true. Without God, who is spirit, not made of matter, we could not make sense of immaterial things. Without God, who is unchanging, and logic is a reflection of the way he thinks, we would have no basis for expecting logic not to change. Now, I'm not great at reading things aloud, but that's nonsense. Like, it doesn't convey real information.
It really
Like,
doesn't.
it's just babbling. It's like if I went on to Time Cube. Have you seen Time Cube?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god, I'm gonna take 10 seconds to scroll through this website and read a sentence here and there.
All right, while I do that, you can talk about your opinions on that statement you just read.
There's no... It's not even a statement. It's just incoherent babbling. And he thinks that because he puts a source, and that source being the Bible, that it suddenly makes everything he says correct. I mean, this isn't proper argumentation. This isn't even freshman philosophy. It's garbage. It's as if you went on garbage day from house to house, and instead of picking up the garbage and throwing it in the garbage truck, you instead ate all of the garbage, and then you walked onto the internet, which is now a physical place that you can be, according to this thing that I'm saying, and then you started puking out all of the garbage that you had eaten, going from house to house and eating it. That's what this argument is. That's what this entire website is.
That's a great imagery right there, Ruben. It won't actually pop up the site for me. Like, it pops it up and then it switches it to something else right away.
Oh, well, I'll read a couple sections for you. Children will be blessed for killing of educated adults who ignore 4 simultaneous days, same Earth rotation.
What?
Practicing evil oneness upon Earth of quadrants. Evil adult crime versus youth. Supports lie of integration. One educated are most dumb. Not one human except dead one. Man is paired, 2 half for self. One of God is only 1/4 of God. Bible a lie and word is lies. Navel connects 4 corner 4s. God is born of a mother. She left belly B signature. Every priest has Ma sign, but lies to honor queers.
Okay, please stop. Please,
yeah.
please stop.
That's what I'm talking about.
I don't know what's going on. Am I still in my hotel room? I don't even know. That was scary.
The general message of Time Cube is that the Earth is square and there are 4 simultaneous days and nights happening all at the same time.
Oh, okay. Please present your evidence.
I mean, the evidence is there. He has a reward on the site of $10,000 to anyone who can disprove him.
Okay. Let's just give a call to NASA, because we know they need some extra funding.
Well, NASA's lying. All those pictures, those are Photoshopped.
No, they'll just take him to space.
All right. Well, back to proof that God exists.
.org.
The final page is, what do you believe? Note that the proof does not say that professed unbelievers do not prove things. The argument is that you must borrow from the Christian worldview and a God who makes universal, immaterial, unchanging laws possible in order to prove anything. So the message that he had in the previous page was that God is necessary for logical argumentation, and that universal, unchanging logic can only come from a being that has those qualities, and that specifically the Christian worldview
Right.
has the God of those qualities.
Like, please.
It says, the type of logical proof deals with transcendentals or necessary starting points, and the proof is called a transcendental proof. Any contrary view to the God of Christianity being the necessary starting point for rationality is reduced to absurdity.
What?
You have to assume God in order to argue against him.
No.
So the options are, I believe that God exists, or I do not believe that God exists.
Hold on, couldn't I use the same argumentation for a flying spaghetti monster?
I think you could use the same argumentation for anything.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes. So that's another big problem with most arguments is that you like shit. What was his name? It wasn't. I don't think it was Descartes. It was a different one. The one who said that God is the greatest thing we can conceive. God exists. Or I don't think that was Descartes, was it? He exists in the mind, and it's greater. It's better to exist in reality.
Google says
Anselm, right, okay. Yeah, that guy. You can replace that with unicorns and be like, unicorns are the most beautiful thing we can conceive of. It's more beautiful to exist in reality than just in the mind.
Anselm's ontological argument for the reference says, 1, God is the greatest thing that can be conceived. Mm-hmm. 2, if God did not exist, something greater than God would exist. 3, but no greater thing than God can be conceived because of the first one. And 4, because 2 is in contradiction with 1, 2 cannot be true, therefore God must exist.
Oh, and he also makes an equivocation fallacy. He assumes that some things can exist in the mind and in reality at the same time.
Yeah.
All right. So anyways, this page, it gives you two options. I believe that God exists, or I do not believe that God exists. Well, at least he used the proper terms. So I do not believe that God exists. And then it gives you a bunch of shit, and then it says back, and then exit.
It says it's not unbelief, but professed unbelief, an exercise in self-deception.
Okay. I think that's just me using my brain, honestly.
Yeah, you can click exit, and it takes you to the Disney.com.
Yep.
If you say that you believe that God exists, it goes into some Q&A and a way to buy stuff from them. Let's see what's in their store. I'm interested.
What I actually did find interesting while you look for things was that this page was made by Sci-10 bruggencate or something. Have you heard of him?
No.
Well, he had a debate with Matt Dillahunty a little while ago, and his entire argument was exactly this website, pretty much. Except he also threw in like the laws of mathematics and the laws of science. I think when I first was on this site, I think that those were on there too, and then I think he took them off when he realized that those were non sequiturs.
Descartes disproved the laws of mathematics.
Did he? I'd love to hear this.
Well, actually, let me bring it up. I have it on the university website.
I think we should bring that up in a later video, possibly.
Yeah, just let me get it up for a second here. Make sure that I'm thinking of the correct thing. Yes, it's the Principles of Philosophy. The Principles of Human Knowledge. The Principles of Human Knowledge Article 5, why we may also doubt of mathematical demonstrations, this is short. We will also doubt of the other things that have before held as most certain, even of the demonstrations of mathematics and of their principles, which we have hitherto deemed self-evident, in the first place because we have sometimes seen men fall into error in such matters, and admit as absolutely certain and self-evident what appeared to us false, but chiefly because we have learnt that God who created us is all-powerful, for we do not yet know whether perhaps it was his will to create us that we were always deceived, even in the things that we think we know best. This does not appear more impossible than our occasionally being deceived, which, however, as observation teaches us, is the case. And we suppose that an all-powerful God is not the author of our being, and that we exist of ourselves or by some other means. Still, the less powerful we suppose our author to be, the greater reason we will have for believing that we are not so perfect that we may not be continually deceived. So essentially his argument is that it's no more likely that we would be deceived a few times than it is likely that we are constantly being deceived. And if there is a God, it's entirely possible that God created us so that we would always be deceived.
I mean, I agree with him in the fact that we are easily deceived, but how we know that some of our ideas work better than others is that we test them rigorously, like multiple times, multiple people, with multiple ideas. Like that's how we test it. Like math is of course not perfect. But it's a really damn good way of knowing things about the universe. The scientific method probably isn't perfect, but it's the best way we got, and that's how we differentiate between reality and delusion.
Have you seen the T-shirts that they have for sale?
No.
There are two of them. One is, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in atheists. Romans 1:18-22. And the other one is, I have a pump in my chest about the size of my fist, made of meat, that pumps 700,000 gallons of blood per year, and runs for 90 years on donuts, and I gotta prove that God exists. Evidence for God? Look around. You know that God exists.
That's the worst. That's the worst thing. I hate it when people say, evidence for God, just look around you. It's like, okay, I see the same thing that you see, except I'm not a fucking retard who's jumping to conclusions. Like, life is proof of life. It tells you nothing about how it got there until you investigate it.
He does have a negative feedback section on his website, which is nice.
Okay, at least people can be open.
Yeah, but he responds to them, and it's pretty much the exact same thing as the website itself. Like, I think he actually believes
that he's infallible.
Yeah.
That his logic is somehow more superior than ours, which can clearly be manipulated.
The response is absolute truth doesn't exist. Truth exists on a scale. And the response is it absolutely true that the truth exists on a scale?
He doesn't know what the meaning of absolute is. I think I might actually do that later today. I'm going to go on there and say, okay, you are using two different definitions of absolute. Like, maybe it's a failure of the English language, but you're not portraying your idea correctly. Anyways, that was the website, and it's silly. So I mean, if you guys want to check it out, go do that and see all of the logical fallacies that he plugs in. So I think we're done for today, and I will talk to you guys later. Say bye, Ruben.
Adios, muchachos.